This is the final part of our new variety look at what's about for next year, and we're going to go through them. It's been a testing season for everyone, I know, and it certainly has down here. Most varieties haven't been as good as normal, but we've done the best we can, southern growers in general, and you're going to see the new ones and how they've done for me. We're going to start off with the collarettes. It's the third year I've grown Melanie Louise, and it's a fantastic variety. It's the best of the new collarettes in my opinion, and I've grown 3 or 4 from Jack Gott as well. This comes from Brian Madders. I cut 6 blooms for the Surrey show and managed to put up a vase of 5, and all of this is one plant. So for anyone that wants value for sort of planting, then look at I could nearly cut a vase of 5 today off of that, and it's been blooming for a month now. Really good variety, and it's called Melanie Louise. Moving down the bed, some of these new ones, sorry Jack, but I've got to tell the truth, and they're just not good enough. This is Julie, Ashfire Julie, and you can see the colour, pretty colour, yellow with an orange blush to it, but just look at the form. You're looking for radiation, 8 petals, good inner cup, and it just doesn't have it, unfortunately, and that's Julie, Ashfire Julie. This hasn't done much. It's called Ashfire Lady, and all of a sudden I've started to get 1 or 2 decent blooms. This is an old bloom, but quite nice. So I haven't completely written that one off, but it wasn't very good early on. But getting 1 or 2 decent blooms now. Moving on again to Ashfire Girl, which this one is. Again, it's okay. There's probably better established varieties out there than this. It quite often has 9 petals on it, like this one here, doubled up there. Nice colour, but I don't think it's going anywhere. This was probably the best of the ones I got from Jack. It's called Carol Chamberlain. Pretty much finished blooming now. We are a bit later in the season than we wanted to be. David's been swanning around the north, and I've been swanning around the shows. So I'm a dahlia grower, he's a judge, and we couldn't get together, so we've got together today, but it is late in the season and there's 1 or 2 varieties that are finished, unfortunately, but I've got a bit of flower on most of them. We're going to do 1 or 2 of the small cactus, miniature cactus now, and I've got 4 miniature cactus here, all from David Hall. And they're the Jasudi varieties, 4 Jasudi varieties from the late Peak Greenaway. And this is a miss, unfortunately, David and everyone else, in my view. And the reason being, that's a beautiful, pretty little thing. Look at the centre on that. But then you look at the depth of it, and it just lacks petal, unfortunately. This bloom is past its show by a day, just thinning out in the middle. You want a slightly bigger centre on a miniature than that. And then you look at the sort of depth of the bloom, and it's just a case of lacking petal. Lovely in the garden, lovely in a vase, lovely in a bunch, but would struggle on the show bench against these other varieties that you're going to see now. This is Polaris, Jasudi Polaris, and I'm not a great one with miniatures. I'm just too keen, I suppose. I just take 1 pair of side shoots out like that, and you get a bloom, and every bloom has been like this, and they're just too big. I just can't seem to keep it down. I will try harder next year, but the size is just massive. Even that young bloom with all that to come in the middle like that, and then you put a ring on it. They're very deceptive miniature cactus. You look at them like these Jasudi Andromeda you're going to see in a minute. They look small enough, tiny, until you put a ring on them. And Polaris is good, and I think for a good miniature grower like Mary Jane or Darren Everest and people that really grow a good miniature, I think they'd make a job of that. But for me, I can't keep them down. I'll try harder. Andromeda is the business for me. That is the one, and I am tempted to have a go at it. Same problem as before, very difficult to keep down. There's a lot to come in the middle, but when you look at a bloom that's ready to go to a flower show like that, I'm just touching the ring all the time. And look what's on it. It's one plant that. Must be 20 blooms out now, and it's been like that for 3 weeks. So I think the way to grow them is just leave them like that, leave them alone, double stop them, let them all come up, leave the wing buds on, and then just as it starts to flower, take them out, just to hold it, just to hold on to it. But it's so good, this variety, Andromeda. It's not on the market yet, but if you like miniatures, then this is the one you've got to go for. It's a cracker. It's the best out there, I think, in my opinion. It's like a miniature Kiwi Gloria in colour and in form. It's a real class act, and I might have a little tickle at it. So watch out for oversized Andromeda, judges. So we're moving on from Andromeda, which was fantastic. It is fantastic. Aurora was brilliant early. Anyone that saw the early video was seeing how good that was. It's one of these that doesn't do the same thing on the next flush round, and the second flush of it are not a patch on what I had earlier, but it was great. It was great earlier, and I would recommend that one. This is Phil Godsmark, small ball dahlia, still on the number H5. And I think that might have a future. I think you'd have to shade it, but it's got great form, but a bit like a Germander, if you don't cover it, it will lose its colour, and judges will pan you for it. But it's a lovely, definite small ball, no argument on that. I've grown it 9 up because I didn't know much about it, so you would want it perhaps 8 up, 7 up. But it's a really good variety. Poppy's chasing the horses across the field, and everyone's happy. So that's that one. That was the last of the Kestrel, Winky Kestrel from John Menzel. Did very well, but weak on the stem. Terribly weak on the stem. And it is now.
It's gone down under.
Yeah. Struggle with this. This is Visa, Barbary Visa, and it hasn't had good centres, but has now. Took a long while to come, but lovely now. But early on they were all dodgy centred, but I've got 3 blooms out now, and you wouldn't fault any of them. This one's coming, that one's nearly there, and this one is there. Good depth, good colour, comes right back on the stem. No argument about a ball deck, it's a deck, but took a long time to get the centres like that. So that's that one. That's the end of Habit Mystery. That came as a mystery, and still a bit of a mystery to me why anyone should release it, but that's Habit Mystery from Hasselhofer in Austria. This is Trident, Barbary Trident. This won't make it, I don't think. It's massive, the blooms are massive, the centres haven't been great, and when you think it's going to be a small deck and you've got the dominance of the Dianes, the Ruskin and Winarm and so forth, comes back well, lovely colour. One of the tallest varieties I've ever grown is a Barbary. Barrys are normally all about 3.5 to 4 foot for me. This is 6 foot over, and no, I'd have to say a miss on that one. However, of the Barry Davis varieties, you're coming to the best 2. What were the best 2 for me? I can only speak here, and other people in different parts of the country might disagree. But this is Merlin, this is Barbary Merlin, and it's an old bloom obviously, and all the others are gone now because we are late. But it still shows the form, the shape, the depth of it, and it's good. I wouldn't turn anyone off that at all. It's worth a go. It's just that a lot of the Barbarys are very similar to each other, and it is a lovely red. It would definitely be a deck from Barry Davis. Barbary Merlin is that one. The national winning seedling of the year in the Luckhurst Trophy at Wisley was this one. It's Buccaneer. It's called Barbary Buccaneer, and we're just taking blooms at random here because it is a late bloomer. For me it was a late bloomer, and it's really in a full flush now, unlike everything else, but it's big. It was sent as a miniature deck, but it's not. It's sort of borderline, a bit like Marston Karen a bit, where it's a borderline deck or ball. I'd go deck, I'd go small deck for it, and that's the size you can get on it, so that's never a miniature, is it? And that bloom is showable. That bloom has got a centre, goes right back, stems like iron, can't really fault it. It's just that it's in a difficult section with the dominance of the Dianes. But lovely colour, didn't fade, hasn't been covered. Ian Sutherland provided Barry with a lovely vase for the Luckhurst Trophy and duly won it. Poms, I don't get to grow many large poms, but this is a good one. It's called Rosemary Dawn. I've got 2 plants, one there, and you can see the amount of flower. I haven't got my large pom ring with me, but believe you me, I've had rings on these, and another difficult section. I probably going 2 pair down on these is silly stuff, really. You have to have the light hand of a miniature grower to get the size down. But look at the lovely bloom, isn't it? Goes right back on the stem like a large pom should. But if you got the large pom ring near these, they would be oversized, even with that number on it. And we're probably talking the best part of, what have I got in my own? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, about 15 or 16 blooms, and I've had some off. So they are difficult to keep down. And this is coppery. I've got another plant, I think, of coppery somewhere. Have I? Perhaps I haven't. I looked at a good bloom yesterday somewhere. Where is it? I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, it's done very well. I like it. It's a miniature ball, I would say. Yeah, that's okay for a miniature ball. And goes right back. It's Happy Coppery from Hasselhofer in Austria. And I like that one a lot. And we'll grow 2 plants again next year. Coming to the end of this one is Palmuti, Mother of Pal, Habit Palmuti from Hasselhofer. Lovely garden dahlia, stems like iron, that's what Carmen likes, and lovely colour, but not show form. This is Wanderer, this is Winky Wanderer from John Menzel in Australia. It's a miss, unfortunately. It's very mixed in its colouring. It's all over the place. The form isn't ideal. It's a bit loose around there, and I probably won't even grow 2 plants of that. If I like them a little bit and not enough to fill the garden up with them, I like to see them a second year. And ones like Merlin I'll grow again, ones like Buccaneer, ones like Rosemary Dawn are all ones that are good varieties, and you will want to see them again. Whether you go up to big numbers or not, actually this year there isn't one that I fell in love with like I fell in love with Stella, Blighton Stella last year, and grow a big number of it. And you had, sometimes you have a feeling about a dahlia, you're not always right, but in the case of Stella I was, which was nice. This is Jester, this is Barbary Jester. I think it's just too big really. I grew it 9 or 10 up this year, and they're lovely big blooms. Not covered, of course, still standing up on a decent stem for the number on there and the size of the bloom. I think people will grow that and show that. But I just keep coming back to the fact of the dominance of the Dianes. Haven't got any to show you on this variety. This is a dead bloom just to show you the colour really. It's called Winky Volcano, and it's really good. I've grown 1 plant, I grew 5 blooms on a plant, and I went to the Kent Dahlia show and took on John Willett, who's a specialist, and Raymond Duffy, who is also keen on Fims, and beat the pair of them. 3 blooms off of the 1 plant, grown 5 up, and Winky Volcano is something. It's really good. Deep, big, but you need to grow it about 5 up to get size on it, and I thought you might, so I was pleased with that. And I will grow that again, if I like them I grow 2 again. Might even become a fin man. But don't hold your breath. That was John Willett's unnamed small cactus, which I've grown for 2 years, probably be the last year with it. 1 plant was a bit stunted and short, the other one a good grower. Pleasant variety, white small semi-cactus, unnamed, still on a number, and that's from my friend John Willett. This is raspberry. No, not raspberries to you, Mr. Gillen, don't get upset. This is Happy Raspberry. I'd say a miniature ball, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know, borderline. It came as a miniature deck. Probably a miniature ball.
Might make a small ball if it's a bit bigger.
Make a small one. Mind you,
Slightly heavy
these
form.
These are blown blooms, you know, so probably just gone over the top. Yeah, a bit heavy in form. I was thinking at one time of having a go, but 2 plants next year. I've just got 1 this year. So that is Happy Raspberry from Hasselhofer. All these Hasselhofer varieties, Raymond Duffy gets them over, and we're going to look at the list again in a few days hopefully, and pick some out for next year. But he's a good raiser, Hasselhofer, and not to be underestimated. You think of, no, we've done it off. Memories, these blooms are shot now and you would have seen it the last time round, but it's a good pink small semi-cactus from John Willett. He sent me the 2 and they both done well, and it was on the trials. I think it done well in the trials, so that's one that I'll grow 2 plants of again. Happy Jewel, lovely thing but very small for a miniature. It's a deck, nice little blooms. Probably needs growing 7 up, I suppose. I grow all these miniatures, I don't know, 9 up and just take it from there. But this would want a bit more. Don't think it'll ever make it size wise, probably would form wise. And that is Jewel, Happy Jewel. We're just a couple of days too late for the sport of this. This is one called Shareworld Peach from Tony Kingdom down in Devon. And he sent me a sport, 2 plants which are next door. This one is still to come. This is the pink sport, and this is the last bloom. And it's going to be called Pink Shareworld Peach. A bit confusing, isn't it, with 2 colour names, but that's what it's going to be called. And it's pink and white blend, much the same as this is yellow and apricot. And it's big. They were big and they were good this year. You have to cane them because they grow all over the garden. It's very tall, a bit like Bonaventure. I used to grow a variety called Bonaventure, which is tall, and so is this one. And we had to cane them, and so they wouldn't get blown over in the wind. It's very windy today. They're giving strong winds later. But that is Shareworld Peach and Pink Shareworld Peach. You can't see the last bloom standing of Westertonella Grace. It's had a good season, not only for me, but I've seen it around the shows and I've been surprised how well people have matched it. I was always a little bit frightened for it, of its colour variance. I mean, you can't judge it on this bloom, it's sort of 4 days past its sell-by date, but it's done well. It's done well here. I just find it very late to close up. You're waiting for the centre to really join up in the middle to cover that green dot, but it gets there in the end. David Hall sent me 3 plants of Aggie White. They were a bit late, so all the varieties I got from him did bloom a wee bit later than they would normally. But these are grown in the open, not covered, and for the keen exhibitor who would cover these, I think this will be around a long while. And now there's a sport on the way again. This is a sport of Brincher Fell, but we've also got the sport Louis White, which is to come. It's a yellow sport from this one or from Brincher Fell, I don't know. But 3 plants, all done well. So I will grow that again. 2 plants. This I might not, I don't know. It was an American one sent by David, and it was called Shiitake, AC Shiitake. And I don't know. I don't think. What's Carmen doing? About and no, I had better than that. I mean, that's not doing it justice. What we've got is the tail end, and they were good. I mean, someone well might make a job of it, and I will grow 2 plants of it again because there is a bit of potential in it. And this season is such a weird old season that you'd be a fool to write anything off of a new variety just on what we've had this year. So I will grow a lot of these that are half-like again. Colston Gold I've grown for 3 years, over the top of this bloom now unfortunately, but it's a good variety. It's from Derrick Cave, from Barlaston, and it's a yellow large semi-cactus. And it won the seedling class, it won the Gel Deck Trophy in 2017 for him. And this one won the medium deck seedling class for him in 2017, and it's called George, Colston George. So you've got Colston Gold, Colston George, Hasn't been as good this year, Causton George, for me. The blooms he had in the seedling last year and the blooms I had were good, but not quite the same this year. Mary Margaret Rowe was good last year and it's just as good this year. You're lucky to have the last remaining decent bloom on there. Most of them are gone now, but it's on release now, and I think growers will grow that and we'll see a lot of it about next year. It's a lovely variety, raised by Roger Day down in Cambridge, and I grew it last year. He sent me plants, Roger, and he sent it to David Hall as well, and I think it's on, I know it's on the...
Looks like it's took the weather all right, considering
yes.
we're, getting on in the season.
Yeah, it's not covered. We've had wind, we've had rain, the sun's been on it, and I think it's a workman. I think you'll show virtually every bloom. It's not a percentage dahlia, it's Carmen's got a cup of tea waving in her hand.
Lovely. Coffee please, Carmen. Lovely.
This is one of the little nice surprises. This is called this is called Frank's Joyce from Frank Taylor, and he sent me this. He sent me 3 plants of it, and this was the late plant. The other 2 are flowered out now, but I had a couple of plants of white candy, Hillcrest candy here, and they both died, and I had to whop plants in late, and this was one of the late plants. But isn't that a lovely bloom?
Yeah, it's nice.
Is it a ball? Is it a deck? We had this debate last time.
Yes.
We nearly had a divorce, didn't we? What do you think now? Difficult, isn't it?
Difficult.
Difficult, yeah.
And I think if it is difficult, do you want to show a variety that judges are going to deliberate over every 10 minutes?
But dead right for size, isn't it? Lovely size.
Yeah.
Lovely form. Goes right back on the stem. Lovely centre. Round as a pebble. I mean, it's lovely. I think it's lovely. I was thinking of growing it, but now you've talked me out of it again. But I don't know. Dave's right, really. You look at it from one angle and it's a deck. You look at it from the other. I'd go decks. Still go just deck, I think, on that bloom. Then you might look at another bloom and change your mind.
Yeah. Hard, isn't it?
Anyway, I got the sport. But I don't get excited with these one stem sports, because quite often the bloom, like that bloom, when you look at this bloom at the same sort of stage, it's a runt of a bloom. I've had 1 or 2 on John's Twilight that you'll see later that have gone white, but I don't know, I don't think it's worth the effort really. A lot of people get excited, but not that. But I do love that bloom. It's probably the best bloom in the new varieties today. Frank's Joyce, and it's named after Frank's wife Joyce. Frank Taylor ran a business and has been in his time. I was looking at some results the other day. In 1974 he won the 6-5s of small decks at the National, so he's like me, an old timer. But all the blooms have been like that. It's not just a couple of blooms, they've all been, cracking, so it is good. So you're seeing the tail end again of Happy Orange Cyril, and this was good. This is a good film again from Hasselhofer, and I really like it, and we'll grow it again. Got 2 plants, I'll have 2 again next year. The white medium deck seedling that I've got, a bit bigger now, centre's nearly popped, but if you could get that, well, it must be nearly 7.5, I suppose, 8 inches that now. I haven't got a medium ring with me, but it's going to class act that, but maybe too small, I don't know. 2 plants next year. Dahlias as usual. I've grown 21 varieties in large numbers for exhibition, and then the new varieties. And a lot of varieties have struggled, a lot of varieties haven't reached full potential, but this one has. This is my dahlia of the year. Don't know why it's like the season, don't know why it's like my garden. But I've always grown it well. And in 2016 I grew 45 plants and didn't show a plant. This year I've shown it at every show. I've got best bars in show at every show I've gone to except the National, and I won the Don Braun using it and got 21 points for it, 20 for the Brighton Stella that you'll see in a minute, and 20 for the Marston Karen, and won with 61 points. The Don Braun trophy for miniature deck class, 15 blooms miniature deck. And this has just been out of this world. You know, when you first look at it, it's nothing special, but you have a job finding anything wrong with it. I was judging at Essex the other night, and I was watching the judges, and they didn't fall in love with it straight away, but gradually the other 16 vases that were alongside it were put back on the bench, and it stood there on its own yet again, 7th time, seven best in shows, and it's just nothing wrong with it. You just have a job faulting it. And where the others, a bit of fade in here, maybe they don't quite match up. This has just been the business from start to finish, and thank God to Cyril Watkins. Cyril, I love you. We're going to have a wander down the plot now, just briefly. I'm telling you all the 21 varieties, how they did, good or bad, telling the truth. And we're going to start off with Gavin's Choice. Had a centre problem this year. I didn't get a full centre in any bloom. I live in the southeast of England. Lovely form. You have to grow it 6 up to get it to size, but had a centre problem and didn't have a well-formed centre all year long. This is called E2, not on the market yet. It's from Phil Godsmark, and it's a lovely small deck. It's done reasonably well, hasn't been brilliant. I'll grow a couple of plants again next year, same as Gavin's Choice. Bella, Rycroft Bella, has had this problem all season long. Centre's blowing before the bloom is really showable. Hasn't had a great year. I've had the odd good bloom, but struggled. There's a lot of misery down in the southeast this year, not just me, but the northerners will be laughing and say, yeah, excuses again, but it was grim. It was grim. The hottest day was 108 here, 108 centigrade. Fahrenheit was 40 centigrade, so that's hot, and that was a thermometer on the straw by the plants. Germander wasn't great, coming better now. We looked at some blooms earlier, David and I, and they're cracking down there now. You could nearly get a vase, but took a long time to get to that stage. Didn't have it for the national, didn't have it for the early shows, it was just poor, but it's come up in height now. Barbary D'Amore didn't have a great year with it. A lot of these plants have still got this mottling problem that I spoke about last year, and on those plants you don't get round blooms. On these clean plants you do, and these are round blooms, these are fine. But it might be time for me to move on from that one. Western Harry is a good old workman, always was, always will be. Whether it'll get blown away by Mary Margaret Rowe in time, I don't know. But it's 5 up, grown outside, no damage, no marking. It's just a good workman dahlia. Show it at all the shows. It's only about 24 plants here, 30 plants, but it's a good workman. Blight and Stella was a revelation. It was a gamble on my part. Gambles sometimes pay off, other times they don't, but that's I've been getting that all season on it. It's not a big one, you need to grow it 8 or 9 up. I grew it 9 up, but it's 8 or 9, and goes right back on the stem. It's on release from Halls of Heaven, and he sent me the plants last year, and I grew 2 plants, fell in love with it, and committed to 45 plants I've got here, 3 rows of 15, 15, 15, 15, and I've mixed this row. Fortunately they're a similar height. That's what you need to do if you're growing 2 varieties in a bed. Try and get them the same height. Now that's the problem with the new varieties. You've got these massive great varieties like Holly Hills Arena, which was 7.5 foot tall, and it overshadowed AC Casper and the white medium deck over there, and they didn't really do well because it's just a beast. But this is the Christabel, 45 plants, all been like that. Brilliant, superb. New varieties you've seen.
This is a good bed, Dave, this one.
Yeah, don't show that. Don't show that. That's a chickweed farm. Yeah, that's where the bulbs were. I'm not going to grow seriously in the ground. Let's find a decent bloom. It is a new variety. It's more gold-crested. That's probably the best bloom. It's still got these 2. It's still got a centre in it. Ready? I grew a new one this year in the small cactus, semi-cactus section. This is the only variety I grew. I took a gamble on it. I'd seen it before and I'd grown it before. It's called Lismore Goldcrest. It's a sport from Oakwood Goldcrest, and it's paler in colour. And when you see it alongside Oakwood, you can see the difference. Good form, good centre, done well with it. It might be a touch smaller than the other members of the family. That's the only thing I would say against it, but it's done well. There were no open centred plants, which you can get where they go daisy-eyed on you. There was none of that. It's new stock. No one has messed it up. The trouble is with us exhibitors, we hammer the tubers and then we get these open centred plants and whatnot. But this was fine all the way through. That was great. We've got Marston Karen. There's talk of it becoming a ball dahlia, but it's always been a good miniature deck for me, and I'll continue to grow it. And I used it in the Don Blanc Trophy win and right through the season. I grow 3 Dianes. I grew the Winholm Diane, which is this bed. I grew the Happit Diane, which is the new one that you might have heard of, and that done well, and it's a nice bloom. That's Happit Diane. Identical really to Ruskin Diane. You couldn't use the two. If it calls for 2 varieties, the judge would call them the same, and so would I. But that's what it's like. It's grown 12 up, massive thing. It's like the day of the Triffids down here to get. I have to go through with a machete to get down here, and because they're such strong growers. And if I grow this variety next year, instead of growing 3 rows in a pathway, I'll have to come down to 2. You just can't get in there to clean it all out, and I like to do that. Control freak. Eastwood Moonlight, no, not great this year. Might be time to move on. Did okay, showed it a bit, but never had a really good vase all season. Got away with it a couple of times, but that's about it. This one is Raven. It's called Rycroft Raven. It's been great in the past for me in the new varieties. I've grown two plants for 2 years. But when the judges have judged it, and I showed it 3 times early on, and then I left it alone because they didn't like it, and then I showed it again at the last show, High Wycombe, last Sunday, and again it didn't do well. So although I like it, it's not sort of doing the job. So it'll be back to 2 plants again next year. Oh, bulbs have arrived. Had no come yesterday. Right. Valentine, excellent, good right through. I still cane them, I still grow it, and I still have good blooms of it. That's the oldest bloom I've got at the moment. I cut some off for Carmen today, but it's been good all season long. And whether I'll grow it again next year, I don't know. Whether I need a large giant deck, but I won the large decks at the National with it. And it's good results. It's always gives you plenty back, Valentine. It's a good backup to Challenger. I've had some fair Challenger for a southern grower like me. Look at that now, there's all that in the middle, and it's probably right on the medium ring, or just over the medium ring now, and a load to come. So it's a 9-inch bloom now, and a good inch to come. So that will be an excellent bloom, and you can usually tell the excellent blooms because they've got a strong stem. Although it's grown on a knockback, as you can see down there, it's still come up and give you this marvellous stem, and it's going to be a marvellous bloom. So when people say knocking them back takes the guts out of them, it's not true. That's Canora Challenger. This is Cream Diane, which did well. Mildew's coming in a bit now, but it did well all season. Cream Diane, it's a must really. I grow the Cream 6 up, I grow the Winholm 7 up, and I grow the Happit 12 up. Disaster area called Mary's Jamander. Never got away really, it sort of checked up. We went on holiday to America for 18 days, and while we were away they didn't get much water, and this never really recovered. And where I've got these tall 5-foot canes around these, the blooms just smash against the canes because it hasn't done what it normally does, which is flower at 5.5, 6 foot for me. So I've got new stock. I don't think it's a stock, I think it's just a season, but I've got new stock coming back in from a friend of mine. Yes, they're coming quite nice now, but this is late in the year. The shows are all over. I've done 8 shows and never shown it. Dave's Choice wasn't great. We're coming to the end of Dave's Choice now. But we didn't have a great year. That's as round as I've had it. It's been oblong, it's been egg-shaped, it's been every shape you can imagine, box-shaped, but I haven't seen a round one, and it's had a terrible year for that reason. And you can only blame the weather, because I've grown Dave's Choice for 10 years now and it's never done that, so it's just the heat. I've grown 2 poms this year. It's blown my mind because I've had to decalex this bud, both varieties, because they're both Twilights, Gertner Twilight, John's Twilight from Andrew Aspinall, and they've both done well.
Good.
So we're off on the poms then. I've got 2 poms this year. Gertner Twilight, which is the one you're going to see in a minute, and this is the Sport from Andrew Aspinall, which is called John's Twilight, named after his son. Both have done well. I've shown both at every show I've been to, and they're as good as each other. The Sport is identical pretty much. David was saying he thought the Gertner was a little bit taller and stronger. Not for me really, they're pretty much the same, I'd say, size wise, and they've both done well. So that is John's Twilight, a yellow pom, new, and Gertner Twilight, which is the old faithful that most people grow. It's done well. I've stopped decalexing now. The last time you saw the film, you would have seen all of this is gone, and if you don't know what decalexing is, this is what it is. You just remove all these bracts from the back of the bloom and you're left with that instead of that. And also, when we're growing for show, you would normally disbud these down, perhaps a couple of pair like that on a Gertner, to give you a bloom that's probably 50mm, 52mm. Disqualification is 55mm on the poms, and we like to be just inside the ring. And Coleman's 2 varieties have done well again. That's Formby Art and Hillcrest Jonathan, and that's about what we've got. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and good luck to you in the seasons to come.